In the heat of the courtroom, time slowed to a crawl. The air felt heavy, clinging to my skin with the weight of dread. The judge's voice rang out like a gavel crashing to the ground, severing my reality from the chaos woven in that room. "Miss Johnson, please take the stand." My heart raced. I had rehearsed my testimony countless times, but no words felt ready to escape my lips. I imagined the peanut wrapper lying at the bottom of the trash can, a chilling reminder of that Thanksgiving. I could almost see it now, crinkled, accusing, an echo of my mother-in-law's feigned innocence. The memory of that day pulsed in my mind, vivid despite the daunting atmosphere surrounding me in this moment. As I was pushed backward through time, I found myself on the outskirts of a sun-dappled kitchen, a space filled with laughter and the aromatic scent of roasted turkey and pie. Light streamed through the windows as relatives bustled, laughter ringing out as I prepared the holiday feast. "Are you excited for Thanksgiving, Claire?" "Kelly," my sister-in-law chimed, her eyes sparkling with anticipation as she sliced into a pumpkin pie. "Excited, but a little anxious," I confessed, glancing towards the side where Martha, my mother-in-law, stood. Her posture was rigid, arms crossed in that way that always made me feel as if I were an intruder in her home. "What do you have to be anxious about?" Martha quipped, her voice laced with sarcasm. "Are you worried about cooking? Or ruining my son's favorite holiday?" The laughter around me felt hollow in that moment. No, just the allergies," I murmured, my anxiety creeping back in. I glanced toward the cupboard where I had stashed my allergy medication. "Don't worry," Kelly winked. "You'll be fine. Nothing wrong with a little peanut butter, right?" Laughter erupted, but somehow I felt the laughter aimed at me, a joke at my expense. I forced a smile, the warmth of familial love fading into an eerie chill. The table was set, a buffet of excess that should have been comforting, but instead, it was a feast that felt like a trap. I took my place at the table, watching as the chaos of my in-laws took over the space, drowning me in their noise. As the laughter mingled with the clattering of dishes, I felt a sudden pang of isolation. I could hear my mother-in-law's voice, sharp as broken glass, cutting through the festive atmosphere. "Claire dear, did you check the turkey? You know there's always cross-contamination." Warning resonated behind her words, a subtle reminder of my condition that had become a weapon she brandished whenever it suited her. "Of course, Martha. I always check," I replied, my tone steady, even as my heart raced, my mind spiraling into a frenzy of self-doubt. I could feel the prying eyes of my family members, some eager for my fall. It was as if they waited for me to slip in the chaos of family obligations. "Just making sure," she retorted, an edge wrapped in innocence. As the dinner wore on and conversations spiraled from laughter to gentle teases, I realized I felt increasingly detached from the warmth of my husband Josh's hand in mine. He seemed to bask seamlessly in their attention, and it pained me when I instinctively reached for him, only to feel his fingers slip away. The main course was finally set before us. My plate was filled with vibrant garnishes around the turkey. When I looked down, I was met with that familiar burnt orange smear of what I immediately recognized as peanut butter. But it was a moment too late. I felt the color drain from my face as Martha's eyes caught mine, a small smirk playing at the corners of her lips. "You wouldn't be allergic to a little sauce, would you?" she asked innocently, the words dripping with malice hidden beneath the surface. I'm not sure." My voice shook, a single moment capable of unraveling me. I reached for the towel on my lap, managing to keep my voice steady despite the turmoil churning within. Dinner, filled with constant jabs and comments that slowly whittled away at my confidence, came to a close. Hours later, lying in bed, I finally succumbed to the panic manifested in my chest. Paranoia washed over me, a visceral feeling that they conspired silently and carefully to cut me down. I discovered myself at the edge of despair, alone in a house filled with people who should have cared. When I discovered the peanut wrapper in the trash the following week, it felt like the universe had sent me a direct message. It could no longer be a coincidence. Each moment of laughter brewed a dark cloud above me as I spiraled deeper into their trap. I felt isolated in this family, stylized by love, but steeped in betrayal, and no one could understand how ensnared I felt within these walls. It was only just the beginning. Image prompt. A mid-30s woman with long wavy brown hair, disheveled and anxious, sits on the edge of her bed, sunlight filtering through the curtains behind her. She wears fuzzy pajamas, the remnants of a long day of confrontation still reflected in her eyes, filled with disbelief. On her bedside table sits a half-eaten pumpkin pie and a crinkled peanut wrapper, evidence of betrayal. I'm sitting on the edge of my bed, staring at that crinkled peanut wrapper. It feels like evidence, and my heart races at the thought of the implications. Was it really an accident? Had Martha deliberately put that peanut sauce on my plate? I am crushed by a wave of anxiety, and the feeling of betrayal curls around my throat, making it hard to breathe. But there's something bubbling beneath my confusion resolve. If she was capable of this, how much further would she go? As the weeks passed, I began to notice little things. At first, it was just a subtle shift in my husband Josh's demeanor around me. He would clutch his phone awkwardly, scrolling through messages I could not see. It sent a shiver down my spine. Was he hiding something from me? The nagging fear that he was complicit with his mother consumed me. One night, after dinner, I caught him in the kitchen, leaning over his phone, the screen casting an eerie glow on his face. I approached quietly, heart racing. "What are you doing, Josh?" I asked, feigning a casual demeanor. He whipped around, hastily shoving his phone into his pocket. "Oh, just checking the news dot. You know, the usual." "The news?" I took a step closer, feeling my heart in my throat. "You can't possibly be interested in politics at a time like this." He shifted uncomfortably, and it was the discomfort that really got to me. I thought you'd want to relax, Claire. You've had a rough week. Are you hiding something from me?" I could hear the tremor in my own voice, my confidence fading like mist under the sun. "What? No. Why would you think that?" He threw his hands up defensively, his eyes darting away from me, betraying his guilt. "Your phone. It's nothing," he interrupted, the annoyance in his tone laced with something darker, something that felt like panic. I backed away, confusion brewing in my mind like a storm. I needed more than these whispers of discontent and dread. That night, I closed the door to my bedroom and sat on the bed, the peanut wrapper now tucked safely in my drawer, a trophy from a battle I'd yet to win. The weight of my husband's denial wrapped itself around my chest like a heavy cloak. I felt wronged, stared through a microscope, as if I were under the scrutiny of a judge. The next day, desperate for answers, I began my self-imposed investigation. I pressed the chaos of my thoughts into a plan. I decided to write down every suspicion, every conversation that seemed off-kilter. My notes soon became a haphazard map of mistrust and confusion. But they also illuminated one thing. Martha's actions seemed to align too perfectly with Josh's reactions. If I wanted to prove my suspicions right, I would need someone on my side. I reached out to an old friend, Caroline, a lawyer who had always treated me like family. We met at a quiet cafe that reeked of roasted coffee beans and sugar, an escape from the suffocating world that closed in on me. "Claire, it's been ages," Caroline greeted me, her warm smile easing the anxiety, but only slightly. We settled on a small table in the back corner, the espresso machine humming softly in the background. "Caroline," I began, my voice shaky, "I really need your help." "Of course. What's going on?" She leaned in, eyes sharp and alert, as if preparing to dissect my words. "I think my husband might be involved in something sinister with his mother." "It's hard to explain, but try me," she urged, her pen poised over her notepad. I took a deep breath and recounted my ordeal. Martha's jabs, the peanut wrapper I'd found, and the strange tension building between Josh and me. And now, I noticed his phone. He seems to be hiding something from me about her. Caroline listened intently, raising an eyebrow. "Let me get this straight. You think your mother-in-law is sabotaging you, and you suspect your husband is involved? It sounds crazy." I swallowed hard. "It doesn't sound crazy if it's true," she countered gently. "Have you considered hiring a private investigator?" "A PA?" I whispered, the idea forming a whirlwind of possibilities and fear in my mind. "Yes, it could provide you with the answers you need. Just remember, digging deeper will uncover things you might not want to see." Caroline's gaze, soft but was filled with an unyielding resolve. As we discussed the potential pie, something shifted within me. It felt like those dusty cobwebs in a forgotten room were finally being brushed aside. Later that night, as I lay in bed, I stared at the ceiling, murmuring to myself, "You're strong enough to get through this, Claire. You deserve to uncover the truth." The comfort of her words wrapped around me like a blanket. and though the weight remained, I felt anchored like I finally had a chance to turn the tide. Image prompt. A woman in her mid-30s, with long wavy brown hair tied into a loose bun, sits in a sunlit cafe, a worried expression etched on her face. She clutches a steaming cup of coffee, her fingernails painted a muted pink, while her other hand scribbles notes on a notepad. A sense of urgency radiates from her soft brown eyes, searching for clarity amidst chaos. I paced the small confines of my living room, the crumpled peanut wrapper cradled tightly in my palm like a secret I was desperate to share but couldn't. Each wrinkle of its surface echoed the lies surrounding me. The walls felt like they were closing in, adorned with the shadows of family photos that depicted happy moments, blissfully unaware of the treachery hidden behind their smiles. The evening had arrived, and I had prepared my confrontation with a blend of fear and resolve coursing through my veins. I whispered to myself, "You have to be strong, Claire. You deserve to know the truth." Josh had invited his family over for dinner, the perfect setup for me to unveil the layers of deceit cradled within the very people I should have been able to trust. As the doorbell rang, my heart thundered in my chest. I opened the door to reveal Kelly, my sister-in-law, who swept into the house, her eyes glimmering with excitement. "Claire, are you ready for game night?" "Game night," I echoed weakly, glancing over her shoulder to see Martha, who entered with an air of superiority, the corner of her mouth twitching into a smirk that sent shivers down my spine. "Are the cookies done? We can't play without them?" She ignored me entirely, moving past like I was an immovable object in her way. I could feel my hands getting clammy, but I gripped the wrapper tighter, steeling myself. "Actually, Martha, I wanted to talk to you both," I said, my voice quivering slightly as I stepped further into the living room, the sunlight filtering through the curtains, mixing with the tension in the air. Josh frowned, glancing between me and his mother. "What's this about, Claire? We can talk later, right?" "No," I said firmly, though doubt crept into my thoughts. "I need to do this now." Something happened at Thanksgiving. Kelly plunked down onto the couch, a frown crossing her face. "What's really going on? You look pale." Ignoring her comment, I approached Martha, holding out the peanut wrapper like a trophy. "You didn't just forget about my allergy, did you?" Martha's eyes darted to the crumpled paper, and then matched my gaze with feigned innocence. "What the hell is that supposed to mean, you know? You used peanut sauce in the turkey. I found this in your trash." The words flew out before I could rein them in, urgency spilling out of me. "How can you act like that as acceptable?" Kelly's laughter erupted, but it carried an edge of cruelty. "You didn't really think she'd drug you purposely, right? Come on, Claire. You're not at risk every single minute." Martha stepped closer, towering over me. "You really think I would do something like that? You've taken this too far. Have you considered how crazy you sound?" A whirlwind of emotions surged through me as I fought back against her words. "Crazy? How can you twist this around? There are witnesses." I could feel my pulse quickening, the adrenaline racing through my veins as I fought to remain composed against the gaslighting. "Who?" she responded, drawing in closer, her voice dripping with condescension. "Your little notes? Your paranoia? It's all in your head. You're the one who keeps stirring the pot." I felt my breath hitch, anger and confusion surging through me. "I'm protecting myself, Martha. I can't just pretend everything's fine when I know something is wrong." Josh stepped forward, his expression filled with concern, but beneath it, I caught a glimpse of anger festering. "What are you trying to say, Claire? You're being dramatic. Are you suggesting Mum would put you in danger on purpose?" "It wasn't an accident," I countered, desperate to reach him. "You need to see it. I'm not crazy. Claire, you need to stop this right now," Kelly interjected, her voice rising in a tone that felt like daggers piercing through me. "You're going to ruin this family dinner over a petty misunderstanding. Just let it go." I felt the suffocating weight of their scrutiny, and my stomach dropped. I realized in that moment they had me boxed in, a crazy woman railing against a perfectly innocent family. "I'm not making this up. I found evidence. You've worked together. You're acting like a child," Martha sneered, crossing her arms defiantly. "How childish of you to think we'd stoop so low." "Exactly," Josh said, the disappointment etched on his features. "You bring up the past. You don't understand how we see it. Maybe you're too sensitive." My heart dropped, panic seeping through my veins. Was he siding with her? You can't possibly believe I'd just make this up. I took a shaky step back, feeling as if I might collapse right there. sweetheart, Josh said, his voice softening but firm. You're losing it. You're making a scene, and it's embarrassing for all of us. Just admit you're overreacting for once, would you? Admit I'm overreacting? I echoed incredulously. Inside, I felt my foundation shake, my reality crumbling as their laughter began to drown me. How could they turn the blame back on me? The lights felt harsh, the air thick with tension, and I stumbled backward as Martha's eyes glinted, triumphant, the weight of familial betrayal crashing down on my shoulders. They all seemed to conspire, to outmaneuver me in their chilling orders. I was trapped in a nightmare, their voices merging into a cacophony of doubt that reverberated in my ears. I won't take this, I finally shouted, tears stinging in my eyes, feeling more alone than ever. Their chuckles and snide remarks surrounded me, swarming like angry bees. Suddenly, I wasn't just confronting them. I was drowning in a sea of betrayal and gaslighting that left me reeling. A part of me shrieked for help, craving an escape, but another part felt buried under their denial. In that moment, standing in my own living room, my heart ached with the harsh realization that I was utterly alone, outnumbered by those who should have loved me. Image prompt. A mid-30s woman with long, wavy brown hair stands in a chaotic living room, her face twisted in pain and confusion. She holds a crumpled peanut wrapper tightly in one hand, tears glistening at the corners of her eyes, while her other hand hangs limply at her side. Shadows of mocking laughter loom around her, and the harsh light exposes her vulnerabilities, contrasting sharply with the smug expressions of her family gathered around her. The sun had barely set when the door slammed shut behind me, the chilling sound echoing through my empty living room like the finality of a guillotine drop. I stumbled into the hallway, the world outside shining bright in sharp contrast to the shadows creeping in around me. My heart raced as I fought back tears, gnawing at the feeling of betrayal with a hunger different from that of despair. I had been cruelly cast out, stripped of my defenses like a moth drawn effortlessly into a flame. You're overreacting, Josh had said, his voice filled with condescension that stung worse than any strike. He had dismissed me as if I were an inconvenience, a fussy piece of furniture to be pushed aside. I dragged my trembling feet into the chilly night, the biting November air coursing through me with whispers of failure and loss. I had left my wallet on the kitchen counter in the heat of the moment, a stark reminder that I was now completely and utterly alone in a world that felt alien. Each step was met with the hollow symphony of disdainful laughter ringing in my ears. My mother-in-law's snide remarks echoed endlessly like an incessant drone, filling my mind with uncertainty and fear about what the future held. As I made my way into the nearby park, now dark and eerie, the shadows morphed into twisted figures that represented my deepest fears. The park bench I found felt cold and unwelcoming beneath me, offering no solace. I realized with an ache that I had always been an outsider, never truly fitting into my husband's family, and that evening had confirmed it in the worst way possible. I pulled my knees to my chest, feeling small and vulnerable as headlights flickered in the distance, illuminating the branches overhead, a reminder that the world was bustling on while I was crumbling. Why couldn't they see me? I whispered to the night, fervently searching for answers that eluded me. Why couldn't they care? Just then, a couple passed by, their laughter carrying a warmth I longed to feel, but could only observe from the outside. "Help us rebuild, Claire!" they seemed to shout, crushing any spirit I had left. I fished out my phone, but my fingers shook as I swiped across it. I had no one to call. I was effectively homeless, kicked out, and utterly broken. Each attempt at reaching out to a friend that turned into despair with failed messages and unanswered calls illuminated my isolation. Behind me, the distant whispers of life and connection seemed to fade, leaving the bitter loneliness sinking within. As I sank deeper into my thoughts, a familiar coldness swept through me, a shiver that had less to do with the air around me and more to do with the crumbling fortresses of trust built over the last years, evaporating into dust. "I thought I knew them," I whispered, the realization twisting around my heart like a vice. How had hidden daggers thrusted into my chest been masked as playful banter? My mind raced, flashing back to the peanut wrapper that had unraveled the threads of my life like unspooled yarn. Suddenly, a rustling noise startled me. I looked up, heart pounding, to see a man hovering nearby, his wild eyes darting around the shadows. He drew closer, and for a moment I considered bolting. "Hey, you okay?" His voice, rough and gravelly, broke through the haze of fear. I squinted, unsure of whether his concern was genuine or just another trap waiting to ensnare me. I'm fine," I replied, trying to sound more assured than I felt. "Sure you are. You look like you've been through hell." He shifted from one foot to the other, a hint of purpose sparking in his expression. "You need help?" I shook my head, though deep down, I felt the weight of desperation threatening to spill out. The reality that I had just lost everything cascaded over me like a tidal wave. "No, it's all right. Just had a bad day." "A bad day," he repeated, a knowing glance shimmering in his gaze. "Look, I won't ask you what happened, but I know what it's like to crawl back up from rock bottom. You shouldn't have to do it alone." The vulnerability in his words pierced through my heart momentarily, making me feel raw and exposed. "Thanks," I managed, wincing at the vulnerability creeping in. Who else would get it? Strangers could glimpse the abyss I stood on the edge of, teetering helplessly between despair and survival. In the disarray of memories and darkening thoughts, I felt sick with longing for a soft bed, the familiarity of home, and the scents that used to comfort me. But then I recalled the peanut wrapper again and its haunting implications. I could not return there. As the hours trickled by, the cold continued to seep into my bones. I could almost see the glint of triumph in Martha's eyes from the dinner table. They believed they had shattered me entirely. A dark thought flared within me, igniting that tiny ember of strength I'd been wrongfully hidden beneath layers of doubt and shame. Asterisk, asterisk, they thought they had destroyed me. If you hate bullies, hit the like button. Asterisk, asterisk, I stood up slowly, shaking off the heaviness that enveloped my soul. "Thank you," I told the stranger with real conviction, a sense of promise hanging on my words. "I think I need to find a way out of here." With every step back towards my apartment, my determination solidified. They hadn't destroyed me. I was still here, breathing and alive. It would take more than betrayal to fully consume me. I didn't know how far the fight would take me, nor did I have a clear plan, but the flicker of resolve ignited like a fire in my belly. I would gather proof of their lies, entrap their darkness, and drag it into the light. I would not let them win. Image prompt. A mid-30s woman sits on a dark park bench, her long, wavy brown hair falling untamed around her shoulders. Her eyes are puffy and red, glistening with a mix of tears and newfound determination, contrasting the cold night air that surrounds her. She clutches her phone tightly in one hand, an empty feeling echoing around her as she sits in isolation beneath flickering streetlights, the shadows of doubt and darkness looming large. The next few days felt like I was walking through a fog, each step heavier than the one before, mired in the resentment of my family's betrayal. The echo of Martha's derisive laughter haunted me as the sun rose each morning, dimming any glimmer of hope within me. I rubbed the crumpled peanut wrapper between my fingers, tracing its creases like one would fingers on a map, charting a course into uncharted territory. But the darkness that enveloped me was propelling me forward, pushing me to gather my strength and finally fight back. I reached out to Caroline, my old lawyer friend, determined to share the depths of my unraveling. We met again at that same cafe, its atmosphere warm and welcoming, a stark contrast to the storm of emotions surging within me. As I settled into my seat, the rich smell of coffee wafted through the air, grounding me. "Claire, you look determined," Caroline remarked, an encouraging smile gracing her lips. "Let's just say a fire's been lit beneath me," I replied, the bitterness still tinged in my voice. "I need your help. I think I've stumbled onto something big, something criminal." Her expression shifted, serious and alert. "Go on," she urged, leaning forward as I reluctantly laid out every detail: the Thanksgiving dinner, the peanut sauce, my family's dismissive reactions, and the nagging fear that they were hiding something more sinister. "Okay, let's break this down," she replied, jotting notes on her notepad. "What exactly do you believe is happening? You think they might be involved in something illegal?" "I can't shake the feeling that Martha isn't just playing games with my allergies," I said, the intensity of my emotions flooding back. "There's a reason she treats me with such contempt, and I'm afraid it's more than just familial pettiness." Caroline paused, tapping her pen against her notepad. What do you mean? I found this. I handed her the peanut wrapper, my pulse racing. It's an anchor to the reality I'm digging up. What if my allergy is just a cover? What if there's some deeper family secret, like money laundering or theft, and they're using me to deflect attention from something worse? Interesting theory, Caroline said thoughtfully, her eyes glimmering with intrigue. We can start by finding some digital footprints. Do you have access to any family finances? Not directly, but I know they have a joint account for family expenses. Maybe I can find out more if I know how to look. A flicker of hope ignited. Let's not waste any time. I'll help you frame a plan, Caroline said, her energy contagious. We can enlist a private investigator, someone experienced in discerning these kinds of things. Do you have someone in mind? I leaned forward, bracing for whatever she had in store. Yes, I do. Someone discreet yet effective, she replied confidently. I'll make a call, but first, let's gather evidence. You need to document everything you've noticed about their finances. Make a detailed list of any cues that could point toward a hidden crime. As the afternoon melted into evening, we crafted a plan, piecing together the threads of doubt that had intertwined my life. The notes I scribbled began to feel like whispers of truth unfolding, each bullet point a step closer to uncovering the dark secrets lurking beneath the facade of family unity. Later, when I returned home, I felt a quiet resolve grow inside me, the weight of betrayal transforming into the fire of determination. But that evening, I received a text from Josh, asking me to meet him at our favorite local bar. My instincts screamed at me to ignore it, to maintain the cautious distance I'd started to establish after our explosive confrontation. But curiosity, and a sliver of hope for clarity, pulled me back. The bar buzzed with life, laughter spilling across tables, while the lingering scent of hops and malt clung in the air. I spotted Josh seated at the back, a grimace etched on his brow as he awaited my arrival. Why did you want to meet? I asked, trying to keep my emotions steady, the tension coiling like a tight spring. Claire, I'm sorry for how things went down last time, he said, his voice low, filled with a sense of urgency. I didn't want to throw you under the bus. I was just caught off guard. Caught off guard? You didn't stand up for me, I countered, the indignation bubbling over. You chose to side with your mother, Josh. Why can't you see I need support? This isn't just about dinner. It's about trusting each other. Trusting each other? He shot back, his fists tightening around his pint glass. You're digging into family drama that doesn't exist. Maybe if you just let it go. Let what go? The manipulations, the lies. My heartbeat quickened. Josh, I think your family may be involved in something more dangerous, something illegal. You need to listen to me. His expression soured, his defenses rising. Why should I believe you? You're acting paranoid. Paranoid? My breath hitched, the realization hitting me harder than a punch. I'm not paranoid. I'm uncovering a reality that you refuse to see. I'm fighting for the truth. Do you really think you can just claim they're involved in something illegal without proof? There it was. The turmoil behind his eyes, revealing uncertainty. Maybe I will have proof soon, I declared, biting back tears, the weight of desperation threatening to sweep me away. I found something that links them to a crime, Josh. I'm going to prove it. Claire, stop. You're scaring me. His tone had softened, but there was a glimmer of something else in his gaze. I'm not backing down, Josh. I need to discover the truth, I whispered, the flame inside me steadying. Before he could say more, I turned on my heel and made my way back into the night, my heart pounding from the adrenaline of our confrontation. Alone once again, I pulled out my phone and texted Caroline, ready to forge ahead with our plan. I'd gather whatever evidence it took to finally uncover the truth hidden beneath layers of deceit. I knew they had underestimated me before, but they were about to realize that I would not let their betrayal define me. I would rise from this and expose what lay beneath. Image prompt. A mid-30s woman with long, wavy brown hair sits alone at the edge of a bustling bar. Her expression a mix of determination and frustration. She wears a dark sweater that contrasts with the vibrant atmosphere around her. Clasping a smartphone in one hand, her brow furrowed as she gazes into the distance, an unyielding spirit set on uncovering the hidden truths that lie beneath family loyalty and betrayal. I found myself juggling the whirlwind of emotions that came with the revelation of betrayal. The peanut wrapper felt like a stone in my pocket, a solid reminder that the path ahead was treacherous yet invigorating. Caroline and I had strategized late into the evening. I would orchestrate a facade of defeat, lulling them into a false sense of security. With their guards lowered, I could finally reveal the truth in a public setting, one that would contain them and leave no room for their familiar gaslighting. The planning phase was not without its toll on my nerves, but with every step, I felt more equipped to turn the tides that had haunted me for so long. The following week, I orchestrated my strategy, sending out invitations for a family gathering, a casual dinner party that would take place in our favorite upscale restaurant, an establishment too classy for any shenanigans from them. I meticulously plotted out the details, inviting not just Josh and his family, but also Caroline, who would attend as my ally, ready to document any slips in their veneer of innocence. The day finally arrived, and as I dressed, I let the cool fabric of my favorite silk blouse glide over my skin, reminding me of the almost queen I wanted to feel like that evening. I did my hair, letting long waves cascade down my shoulders. The woman staring back at me in the mirror felt fierce yet grounded, the embodiment of a woman on the cusp of claiming her narrative. When the time came, I walked into the restaurant with an air of confident composure, taking in the relaxed buzz of conversation that filled the air. The clinks of glasses and the aromatic scents of expertly crafted dishes swirled around me, providing an almost intoxicating backdrop. Josh was already seated at a large table when I arrived with Caroline, his family's familiarity the only thing that felt tangible in the room. A round of surprised voices greeted my arrival, Martha's quip cutting through my readiness to combat their tormented truths. "Did you dress up for us, Claire? Or is this for another event?" Her smile oozed with sarcasm while everyone chuckled at her false humility. "Just wanted to look my best," I replied with a slightly coy smile, feeling stronger than I'd ever felt. As I settled into my seat across from Josh, I glanced at Caroline, a flicker of mutual understanding passing between us. Her presence would serve as my safety net, anchoring me as I plunged into the depths of this trap I had set for my family. Dinner progressed, filled with banter and pretentious jokes, but I could hardly hear the words as I fueled an inner monologue, steeling myself for the revelation. The clamminess in my hands reminded me of the control I needed to wield. Once the dessert was served, a decadent chocolate cake that made my mouth water, I signaled for attention. "I appreciate everyone coming tonight," I began, my voice steady against the pull of uncertainty. "And I'd like to say that I've been doing a lot of thinking." Martha's eyebrows shot up, and for a moment, I noticed pockets of discomfort around the table. "About what, dear?" She tilted her head, feigning interest, but I could sense the instincts kicking in, her breeding of doubt swirling. "About Thanksgiving," I continued, letting the tension stretch between us. "And the peanut butter incident that seemed to hold more weight than I ever imagined." The table fell silent, the impact of my words landing like a bombshell. Josh's jaw clenched, the subtle flicker in his eyes betraying his concern. "You're still on about that?" Kelly's voice laced with disbelief, her facade trembling as she attempted to downplay my words. "You really have to get over this." "No," I said firmly, maintaining eye contact with Josh, seeking his unwavering support. "It was no accident. I found this in the trash." I pulled out the crinkled peanut wrapper, slowly laying it on the table where it lay like a damning piece of evidence amid the elegance of dinner plates. The silence rang louder than the clinking cutlery around us, and I saw the muscles in Martha's face twitch. "You've got to be kidding me," she scoffed, her tone dripping with derision. "What are you going to do? Blame me for your overreactions?" "I'm not overreacting," I countered, pushing further. "You don't know what it's like to have trust violated. I've spent years feeling uncertain and ostracized. Lies don't hide behind pleasantries, Martha. They fester beneath the surface." The room stayed quiet, yet the undertones of tension surged, and at that moment, I understood something vital. This was their chance to crumble, but also mine to rise. "I've been doing some digging," I added, my voice a deliberate whisper that only my family could hear. "I have my suspicions because I refuse to walk blindly into their game. It's high time you've all faced the consequences of these hidden truths together." "What do you mean?" Josh whispered, anxiety knitted on his brow. "You'll see soon enough," I said, looking around the table at their carefully masked discomfort. I had to decide, forgive or destroy. Tell me in the comments, I mused to myself, feeling the echoes of my own sentiment behind the facade. The evening continued, each passing moment thick with anguish, but in my heart, I felt an undercurrent of confidence that propelled me forward. This wasn't just about revealing hidden truths. It was about reclaiming myself in a world filled with deceit, manipulation, and hurt. As Carolyn and I shared quiet laughs, I tossed glances at my family, who had started to squirm. Their faces told the entire story. They were trapped in the web I had woven. Their gaslighting would no longer hold any power. Image prompt. A mid-30s woman with long wavy brown hair sits confidently at a dinner table, dressed in an elegant silk blouse. Her piercing gaze locks onto her family members, with a peanut wrapper slung dramatically before her. The ambience of fine dining contrasts the tension in the air, with her former charm transformed into an unyielding ferocity amidst the discomfort of those around her, their faces contorted in disbelief. The air in the restaurant felt thick with tension, each tick of the clock echoing like a heartbeat as I prepared to unravel the facade my husband's family had built around me. With the crinkled peanut wrapper resting starkly on the table, every eye in the room settled on it, the weight of their collective breath hanging in the silence like a guillotine poised to drop. "Really?" Martha scoffed, tilting her head in that patronizing way I had come to loathe. "You're going to bring that to this dinner? You're making a scene over a peanut wrapper?" "Martha, it's not just the wrapper." I forced a calm into my voice, though the adrenaline buzzed beneath the surface, ready to erupt. "It symbolizes everything you've set in motion. The cruelty, the manipulation. This wasn't an accident. You deliberately neglected my allergy, knowing full well the consequences." Kelly, seated beside her mother, rolled her eyes. "Oh, please. It was a little sauce. You're so dramatic. Maybe you should learn to relax. Relax." My voice amplified, reverberating off the tasteful decor that surrounded us. "You think my allergic reactions are a joke? This is about the core of how your family treats me, like I don't belong. Like I'm a joke to be laughed at." Now Josh's discomfort transformed into something else, a mix of concern and confrontation as he shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Claire, you're making this worse. You're going to ruin this dinner," he hissed, his brow furrowing. "No, Josh." I steadied myself, locking eyes with him. "I'm reclaiming this space. It's time to expose the dynamic you pretend doesn't exist." I turned back to the table, allowing the silence to weave a veil over the tension-filled air. "At Thanksgiving, as your mother watched with glee, she used my allergies against me. Look at this wrapper. It's proof she treats my life as a game." "Is that what you think?" Martha shot back, venom drenching her words. "This isn't about you. You've always been too self-involved to see that. You think the world revolves around you. No, it doesn't revolve around me," I replied, my voice steady even in the face of her derision. "But your actions revolve around your malicious need to control and undermine me. You've led a campaign against me all the while, pretending to care." The words hung in the air like a foul odor lingering long after its source has vanished. Each family member squirmed slightly, unsure how to navigate the conversation without giving themselves away. "Claire, why can't you figure out how to let it go?" Josh interjected, desperation lacing his voice. "You're making this into something it's not. It is what it is." "Josh," I pressed, glancing at him and then the rest of his family. "You think this is just about misunderstandings? The parallels you all draw to me failing? Those are deliberate attempts to make me question my worth and existence. You've left me isolated and alone." "You're crazy," Kelly spat, her voice shrill with indignation. "Everyone knows you've overreacted. No one believes you, not even Josh. Do you think they'll support you?" Martha's voice dripped condescension. "They're smart enough to see through your shtick. The truth is, you all have secretive connections behind closed doors, hiding in plain sight while laughing at my expense," I declared, bearing down on them with both clarity and purpose. "Your deception has a ripple effect, one that I can no longer let run unchecked." Just then, I welcomed the unexpected, turning my gaze to Caroline, who had remained watchful beside me. "Caroline, this is where you and I worked together to unveil the careful dance you've all engaged in. Why don't you explain your findings about their shady dealings?" Caroline slid seamlessly into the conversation. "Well, I've glanced into the financial statements associated with the joint accounts. There seem to be unusual transactions that correlate with some major familial spending, a lot of withdrawals around key times of year." She glanced at me. affirming she would shed light on their guise. Unusual? What are you talking about? Josh asked, his tone uncertain as he shot me a quick questioning glance. Josh, neither you nor your family can pretend this wasn't orchestrated, Caroline continued, her calm demeanor exposing their escalating anxiety. Those funds should have gone toward familial support, but instead, helicopter parenting took a front seat. Support? You're painting yourself as some sort of martyr, Claire, Martha snapped, raising her voice angrily as she faltered. You're not fit to speak of familial support when you've bared false accusations. False? My voice rose and I felt the air shift around us. Is it false when their attempts at sabotage threaten my very existence? I refused to back down. You've manipulated situations and masked them as love. The moisture in the room grew thick with humiliation. And slowly, I watched the giants of my torment falter. Josh looked bewildered, his expression shifting from denial to fear as realization dawned. Each villain before me wore the shame of their facade, fraying around the edges like a well-worn fabric. You never believed her. Now you're all complicit, I said, leaning into the moment. And I'm here to shake the foundation of this toxic family once and for all, with every accusation. I felt my heart strengthen, clarity lifting me like a zephyr escaping from beneath heavy chains. Each laugh of guilt rolled off their backs. Their confidence withered as I pushed forward, exposing the web of lies they'd crafted with such care. I won't settle for half-truths and false pretenses any longer. Tonight, I establish my power over the narrative because your greed and manipulation will not prevail over me. I will find my way into the light once more. As I set the stage for my family's reckoning, I felt emboldened, refusing to be stifled or extinguished in the face of their derision. They may have underestimated me before, but I was no longer a pawn in their game. I was the architect of my liberation. Image prompt. A mid-30s woman with long, wavy brown hair stands tall at a fine dining table, her expression fierce against the backdrop of gasping family members. Dressed elegantly, she holds a crinkled peanut wrapper confidently on the table in front of her, the tension palpable as silence envelops the otherwise bustling restaurant. Her former insecurities are overshadowed by a fiery determination as she finally takes control of her narrative, exposing her family's betraying masks. As the days rolled into weeks, life settled into an unsettling routine. Once the dust of my confrontation had begun to settle, the aftermath hit my family like a tidal wave. The chaos that followed unraveled them at the seams, just as I had anticipated. Martha, once the queen bee of our family, fell from her throne gracefully adorned with malice. Josh began to distance himself from her, the truth bleeding through every stitched-up lie. It was as if the very essence of their connection frayed, a familial bond severed. My mother-in-law's barbed remarks echoed in my mind, but now they rang hollow as I witnessed the reality of their fallout. Ironically, it was her damage control tactics that created a chain reaction, leading to her ruin. News spread through the tight-knit community about Martha's dealings, falsified loan applications, and shady business practices that had allowed her to live above her means. I had inadvertently become the catalyst for exposing her corruption, and she had walked straight into her own trap, clutching at the facade she had so carefully built. In the weeks that followed, the town buzzed with gossip, as insulation among family members transformed into isolation. Martha's often vaulted social gatherings became thunderous voids filled with contempt and whispers. The pity that enveloped her felt bitter, hanging in the air like the scent of burnt toast, unpleasant yet very real. "Did you see Martha?" Kelly asked one afternoon as we both stood in the grocery aisle, eyeing the galloping prices. The tension between us had melted slightly after our confrontation. It was a curious bond forged through shared contempt for the family dynamics that seemed to predominate our lives. "Word is, she's facing bankruptcy." "Really?" I replied, surprised but not entirely. I had half expected it even. "And Josh? Is he still defending her?" Her laugh was harsh, almost desperate. "Oh, he's lost friends. No one wants to be associated with such scandal. He avoids being seen in public now." "Good," I replied, my heart beating a little faster as I realized how far the ripple effects of my revelations had reached. The woman, who had gleefully wielded her power against me, now found herself the victim of her own merciless ambition. Days morphed into weeks, and while the world outside seemed normal, I basked in the growing successes of my newfound freedom. I had felt crushed beneath the weight of their lies, but now those very lies had birthed my freedom. I was reclaiming not just my peace, but also my narrative. One evening, as I settled down with a glass of wine in hand, the soft glow of candles creating a soothing ambience around me, my phone dinged with a message from Caroline. She had been invaluable throughout this tumultuous journey. "Hey, met with the pie today. You won't believe how deep it all goes. Let's meet soon." My pulse quickened, and I couldn't help but smile at the thought of her findings. I quickly texted back my acceptance, feeling a thrill course through me like electricity. This was no longer just about my battle. It had morphed into a wider reckoning. Soon after, I met Caroline at the cafe where our mission began to unfold. As I approached our table, I hardly recognized the woman who had once cowered in fear. Instead, I felt empowered, cracking open the door to honesty and healing, each potential discovery pushing me higher up the rugged cliff of triumph. "Claire," Caroline greeted me, and I could see the fire in her eyes. "You are not going to believe the paper trail we've uncovered. There's more to the story, much more. Tell me everything." I leaned forward with anticipation, my pulse racing with every word she uttered. "Turns out your mother-in-law's toxic behaviors weren't just limited to family events. We found that she's facing not just bankruptcy, but potential criminal charges for fraud," she explained, excitement peppering her tone. "Those loan applications were just the tip of the iceberg. She's been stealing from her own clients, many of whom were so trusting funds to lavish herself. And now they've filed complaints." "I knew it. It had to be deeper." I laughed, the release of pent-up energy bubbling to the surface. Karma has a beautiful way of working itself out, doesn't it? That evening, as I left the cafe, I felt a weight lifted, a pendulum swinging back into harmony. The anger, despair, and countless attempts to bury my truth had dissolved into something that resembled strength. The woman who had once been manipulated was now firmly holding the reins of her own life. And oh, the irony of it all. I had evoked a reckoning that rippled through the very fabric of my family, revealing their deceit in such stark contrast to the love they feigned. Between the burgeoning whispers and the secrets unraveling at the seams, I felt a freedom I hadn't known in years. They were facing their fate, marred by the choices they had made, while I had opened a new door. In the weeks that followed, I shifted my focus onto creating the life I had always dreamed of, away from the stifling judgments and conspiracies of my in-laws. I reconnected with friends, groomed my mental health, and dived deep into creative pursuits that had once floated just on the periphery of my existence. I was winning. As my new life unfurled, I smiled at the thought of it. While they suffocated in their shattered glory, I had emerged victorious, basking in peace. With every news report of Martha's downfalls, the closure came completely, a warm embrace of liberation over despair. The fallout was palpable, rippling through their lives like a long overdue storm, unleashing what had been hidden. Subscribe for more karma. I found myself smiling, repeating the mantra in the quiet of my thoughts. Because sometimes, in the harshest battle of betrayal, the greatest victory is simply found in reclaiming our truth. As I slowly strolled home through the illuminated streets, a gentle rain fell, washing away the remnants of a life I had once known, a life drenched in deception and fear. This was my new beginning, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Image prompt. A mid-30s woman with long, wavy brown hair walks confidently down a rain-soaked street, her smile radiant against the somber backdrop. She wears a fitted coat, holding an elegant umbrella, reflecting peace and serenity in her stride. The streetlights cast a warm glow, surrounding her in soft luminosity as she steps into a future vibrant with potential, the echo of her past fading into the rain.